Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. Welcome to this channel, and I hope you're having a good day. So today I'm covering the topic of debanking, and debanking is actually quite frequently going on in this country, in the United States, so I will take a look at this topic. It is very similar in a way to the individual sanctions that are being applied in the European Union, applied to individuals who you're putting out narratives or covering and publishing information which the governments, either the European Union or a country within the European Union, are not happy with. So it's basically becoming a mechanism of control of free speech, but the consequences are terrible, and also the debanking is something very similar. And in the UK, you have both debanking, I believe, and also you have sanctions. So you could be both sanctioned and debanked. So wow, you know, much more interesting, I guess. But anyway, what is debanking and how does it happen in the first place? So we'll listen to a video here from the Institute for Justice. So I'll play that.
What would you do if you went to withdraw cash, but the ATM denies your request? And with no warning, your banking app shows all your accounts and credit cards are frozen. This is called debanking, and it's happening to thousands of Americans every year. Federal law requires banks to monitor everything their customers do and report anything suspicious to law enforcement. This includes donations to certain nonprofits, regular cash deposits, transactions at gun stores, or even stores like Dick's Sporting Goods. Banks file millions of these reports every year, and they're not allowed to tell you. But if you trigger enough reports, your bank may shut you down.
So there we go, the debanking, and there's plenty of evidence that this is being used widely in this country. So here we got another video from CEI.org.
Debanking is in the spotlight after investor Mark Andreessen revealed dozens of tech executives were quietly denied banking services during the Biden administration. He called it Operation Choke Point 2.0, likening it to an Obama-era program where regulators pressured banks to cut off certain industries. What's at stake is regulators forcing private actors to carry out their agendas.
So there we go, a little more information about debanking, and yes, it is going on. So it's going on such a problem that there was a Senate hearing. So here we have Senator Elizabeth Warren mentioning about the particular groups that she's aware of that have been debanked.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These stories are from Muslim Americans, from cannabis businesses, from formerly incarcerated individuals, all of whom lost their bank accounts for no apparent reason.
So they do have evidence of widespread use of debanking. And so here's more information about this hearing. So anyway, I'll leave the links below. You're welcome to consult that. And so they mentioned one CEO and co-founder of Anchorage Digital, who was debanked. And so that complaint from Elizabeth Warren was about President Trump. But of course, President Biden made widespread use of debanking. So here we have a mention of Dr. Joseph Mercola, critic of the COVID vaccine, who was debanked about the same time he was speaking out against the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. Also, it mentions about the debanking of Melania Trump because of the January 6th protests, and her son Barron could not open an account. So a little more evidence that this is going on. And so why do we have so much government regulation and information collection and flagging people? Well, we have something called FISA, which was passed in 1978 in response to all the government surveillance abuses occurring under the Nixon administration. And I'm sure if you went back far enough, you would get LBJ. He probably did the same thing. But anyway, the act didn't protect Americans. All it did was it legalized the information, the surveillance and information collection, and created a system to oversee that information collection. So then, after the September 11th terrorist attack on the World Trade Centers and all the, the terrorist attacks that day, we got the PATRIOT Act. And the PATRIOT Act is basically a abbreviation of Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism Act. So this widely expanded the government's ability and permission to surveil citizens, to collect information on them, to flag them, and they could obligate businesses like banks to collect information on individuals and provide that to the federal government. So this is something that the banks basically are obligated to do. They don't have any choice, or they'll get cut off from the FDIC system and all the privileges that offers. So we get Elizabeth Warren, basically complaining about the banks. But the problem isn't the banks, it's the regulation that obligates the banks to carry out these policies. So incredible stuff from Senator Warren. She complained about President Trump when she never said anything about the debanking of those COVID critics, of the January 6 protesters, and but when it touched on the cannabis industry, when it touched on people who were released from jail, then she was going to speak up, because I guess that's more within the group of people that the Democrats focus on. It's hard to say, but anyway, if we go back to this whole regulation, it basically has a government out of control, collecting information, creating a scenario behind the scenes of dangerous people because of some purchasing habits or anything, and they're not going to explain to you what information they collect, and they could be told by the federal government to debank you, and they don't have a choice, and they can't tell you what government office told them to do that and what the information was collected that brought about that decision. So we're in a situation that is really deteriorating in the United States. One individual who was debanked, Scott Ritter, so he was not actually debanked under the Biden administration. He was debanked during the Trump administration. I think it was a couple of days ago, he got a letter in the mail, but they had actually realized that they were debanked when they went to use a bank card and found that there was no funds and their bank account was liquidated. So here he talks a little bit about the debanking. So I'll play that briefly and I'll close out this video.
And Donald Trump, the way that Biden weaponized the judiciary and law enforcement, they debanked almost every of the January 6 people. They debanked anybody who opposed. They debanked people who challenged anything, COVID, whatever. They just debank you. And let me tell you about debanking. It sucks, because I'll get my money back. They didn't seize my. This is not a law enforcement action. I'm not accused of doing anything illegal. The federal government deliberately tickled the system. And this is what the House Judiciary Committee said. They say this is done deliberately by the federal government to trigger automatic de-risking by the banks, so that American citizens who have committed no crime lose their bank accounts. And
so there we go. Again, I'll leave the link below so you can access all this information. This is debanking. This is the future of the United States, the information collection, the surveillance society, the debanking of individuals, anyone who is trying to work in an industry the government doesn't want to grow, any church that has a message the government doesn't agree with. They can debank, nonprofits. They can debank individuals. So this is really getting out of hand. When you see someone like Scott Ritter, who just basically has a YouTube channel, comments on things in the world, is debanked, and by the Trump, within the Trump administration. So somebody in the FBI, somehow got the message to the banking system, and they got the message to his banking company to debank him. So anyway, this is terrible. It's an abuse of power, and but this is where we have gone now that we have the PATRIOT Act, and that was not only that could have been stopped, but it was extended, and I believe that the powers of the PATRIOT Act just continue to be expanded. So you could go down to the store, you could go down to the restaurant, buy a hamburger, and you could be debanked. Why? Because maybe they don't want you buying hamburgers. Or you travel to X country. Let's say you go to Iran, or you go to Russia, or you go to South Africa, or you go to Brazil. Maybe you're in Venezuela and you try to access a card, and this shows up. This is flagged. You're a risk to the system, and you're debanked. So anyway, I'll leave the video at that, and so we can continue the discussion if you like below in the comments. And so we'll see what happens with Scott Ritter, but so many thousands of Americans have been debanked, and many nonprofits, many businesses have been debanked, and it's just all, it's an overreach of government. And I guess we still have the opportunity to try to change things, but the Democrats are going to complain about the Republicans are doing, and the Republicans are going to complain about what the Democrats are doing, but they're not addressing the key fundamental point, is the information collection itself, and all the regulations about banks collecting information about you, your activity, and sending that off to Uncle Sam or some, central database where the FBI, with its algorithms and with the AI probably searching through all this information, is going to pull out information that, you're a danger to society. So, this is terrible, but anyway, that is what's going on. So I thought I'd bring that to you in my report. And so have a great day, and look forward to seeing you in future reports. Take care. Bye-bye.